one who needs no introduction, Srimati Syamarani Didi. All I'm going to say is she's speaking on Gurudev's instructions regarding creating harmony. And I want to say that over the years that I've been very fortunate to know her, she's not only read about it, heard about it, spoken about it, but I absolutely see in her actions that she is always trying to implement it. And that's the most important thing, is her actions. And she'll say herself, they're not always perfect, but she's endeavoring to carry out the vani. And I see that through her actions all the time in the most glorious evolution of consciousness over the last however many years. I've known you, 25 years. So you are the perfect person to speak on the subject, Syamarani. So I'm going to hand the Zoom Vyasa-san over to you with my exploding head and my crazy body going into crazy hills, and it's all yours. Haribol. Do I need to remind you when you got 5? No, you're brilliant time.
I want to know when to end. I'd like to know that in the beginning.
Okay,
because
so
now
it is now 2:36.
Yeah.
So you will end at 3:05.
Okay. And you're right that this is, the beginning of this is a perfect continuum from Sripad Mahavir Swami.
Yeah.
Agyanam timirandasya Gyananjana salakaya Chaksurun militam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Twadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Nama Yang Pravajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakataruva Juhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Banedos Tang Sarvabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Bhaktya Vinaya Parada Lakshay Chiptasya Kamarita Rangamadye Kripamayitvang Sharanam Prapadyang Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tavaivasmi Najivami Tambina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Charanantike. First, I offer my obeisances, unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev Srila Prabhupada, my Shiksha Guru Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, and all of our Gaudiya Guru Varga and all the beautiful assembled devotees. So this topic is Gurudev on harmony. I generally don't like to read when I give class, but I'm going to read the foreword to Srila Gurudev's harmony book because it couldn't have been said better. The word harmony is defined as a combination of parts into a pleasing or orderly whole. Congruity, agreement in feeling, action, ideas, interests, and peaceable or friendly relationships. That's from the Webster's Dictionary. Musically, harmony is achieved when various instruments and voices come together and work to complement one another in order to enrich the composition as a whole. The aim is not for each musician to claim more or less attention for his particular part in the arrangement, but to enhance the experience of the audience and the other musicians. Each musician gives his undivided attention to improving his contribution to the production. And then the conductor is responsible, that would be Gurudev, for suggesting areas of improvement for each musician. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. So
I'm going to try to go through the harmony book in brief. Sripad Nemi Maharaj asked Gurudev, how can we be a leader like you? You're a perfect leader. So Gurudev said, be kind to all, equal to all, in the sense that Sripad Mahavir Swami said, and preach. Then I want to share what Gurudev told about who's the most respectful to others and harmonious. That is Krishna himself. yad yaracharti shrestас. Whatever great men do, common men follow in his footsteps. So there was a meeting between the great sages in the heavenly planets, and they wanted to know, who is the Supreme Lord? Is it Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva? So they selected the senior most of them, Bhrigu Muni, to check and come back, and they agreed to follow whatever he decided. So first he went to the abode of Lord Brahma, his father. He was born from the mind of his father Brahma. And instead of giving Brahma respect, he just didn't respond at all to Brahma's welcome. He just completely ignored him. And so Brahma became furious, and Brahma's advisors had to calm him down. Look, he's your son, you can forgive him. So Brahma calmed down. And later on, he explained to Lord Brahma what he was actually doing, that it was just a test. Then he went to Lord Shiva, and not only did he commit a mental aparad, but also a verbal aparad. So Lord Shiva, being his younger brother, he also coming from in between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma. Lord Shiva welcomed him. He went to him to embrace him. But Bhrigu Muni said, "Don't touch me. You're so dirty. Who ever heard of anybody with a couth behavior, putting ashes all over his body? You stay in a crematorium. You hang out with ghosts. Don't even touch me or I'll have to take a bath." So Lord Shiva was ready to kill him, but Parvati controlled him and to bring out his mode of goodness and tolerance, saying, "Don't you remember, he's your elder brother. Be more tolerant." So then Lord Shiva calmed down. Of course, neither Lord Shiva nor Brahma have any false ego, but just to teach who is the Supreme Personality, they responded in this way. Then he decided to do a corporal offense to Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu was sitting in Vaikuntha with Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, who was massaging his legs. And he was lying on his jewel-studded bed. And Bhrigu Muni came and stomped on his chest with his foot. So immediately the Lord stood up and he said, "Oh, please forgive me that I didn't welcome you properly. Now that you've done this, you've actually purified all the kings and emperors and everyone else who's living in my heart, because everyone lives in my heart, everyone lives in my body. So now we're all purified." So Bhrigu Muni was so overwhelmed by the Lord's not only not becoming angry or taking revenge, but his complete humility in it all. And then the Lord said, "And I'm going to place your footprint right in the same place that I have the silver hair representing my consort, the goddess of fortune, the Srivatsa." And so at first, Bhrigu Muni was very ashamed and put down his head, but that's because he was under a spell. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted in that way. And when the spell controlled by the Lord himself was over, then he began to dance in ecstasy, hair standing on end, weeping, being stunned, dancing in ecstasy, realizing the beautiful humility and glory of the Supreme Lord. Then there's a very other nice story about a devotee who was begging alms, showing how he was harmonious and didn't become angry and always worked for the welfare of everyone, including the person who abused him. So this Vaishnava, he was in Vrindavan, he was going around singing Radhe, 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 and Hare Krishna, and knocking on each door to beg alms. So one lady, she was in a very angry mood. And he said, "Radhe, Radhe, give some alms." And she said, "Get out of here and don't ever come back. Otherwise I'll break my stick on your back." And so he left, but he came back the next day, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. And she abused him again and came back the third day. And she was in the middle of cleaning her floor with cow dung. And the rag that she was using was like really filthy, old, smelly, worn and torn. And she took the rag and threw it at him. And he caught it with great delight, left, washed it in the Jamuna, made it spick and span, ripped it into little pieces, soaked each piece in ghee, made ghee wicks, and then did arti to his deity with those ghee wicks. So in other words, he was giving her sukritis. Sukritis means known or unknown spiritual pious credits, knowingly or unknowingly. So then he came back the next day, the fourth day, and she said, "Oh, welcome. Wait a minute, just a minute. Welcome." And she immediately got up and gave him a chapati, and she was so happy to see him. So this is an example of amanina manadena, giving all respects to others, trying to help others, no matter how they act to us. Then Srila Gurudeva gave a lecture in Badger about the ideal society, because he wanted the ideal society to be in Badger because they had started their school. So he said, always consider, always remember that we're all one family. Honor all without any consideration of caste or creed. And you have to choose or create your society. So if you're creating a society, create a society where everyone is very happy because they're being trained in Krishna consciousness. Don't only think of yourself, think of your children. And if the teachers are not humble and tolerant, and if they get upset, then that's what the children are going to learn, because they learn more from the behavior of their teachers than from the verbal teachings of the teachers. Then he said, start a committee, and this committee will meet every so often, and it will solve problems. How will you solve the problems? If there's goodwill among you, if you honor each other, then all problems will automatically disappear. It's not, with the brains that we think we're going to solve the problem, but it's by goodwill, honoring each other, respecting each other, even if we're not respected back. He said all problems will disappear, and the children will be trained properly, and they'll be happy. Seniors and juniors, he told them, must be honored. And especially seniors will show affection to juniors. Then he said, this is the famous place where he said, harmony is essential, and it will solve all the problems. Then he gave another talk about loving management. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, my godbrother, asked Gurudev that we're not supposed to criticize. We know that's Vaishnava Aparad, yet for those of us who are managers of an institution, then we have to discriminate. We have to sometimes criticize for the benefit of the institution and also for the benefit of the person. So doing this, how can we avoid Vaishnava Aparad? So Gurudev said, just at times like this, remember Mother Yasoda, when Krishna was stealing butter and yogurt and going to everyone else's house and his own house and stealing. Mother Yasoda said, and then Gurudev said it in a very playful way, may I beat you? And she'll act as if she's going to, but of course she never will. So she did that with priti, with love. He said, if you have any malice, any revenge, any hatred, or anything less than this love, then not only will your correction not have any value, but also you'll lose your, if you do this regularly, then you'll lose your discrimination on who to criticize, and you'll start criticizing Guru and Krishna and all the pure Vaishnavas. You'll lose your fear of pure Vaishnava Aparad. So he said, be very, very careful in this regard. Then another meeting Gurudev had was, as you know, Yasodanandan Prabhu with the advisory committee back in 2007, talking about a majority or a 2/3 vote that everyone would be happy with, rather than superimposing my will over others. And then he made a very important statement to all the devotees present. There were a couple of hundred. He said, don't fear. Tell your ideas openly and bravely. And don't think that, oh, only he is controlling. Everybody has a right to express themselves. And then the others will listen, and that creates harmony. Then the next section we have is giving like a tree. Am I going too fast? Because I have so much to cover and I know my time limit.
Oh, this is beautiful. Just race on.
So the next subject is giving like a tree. Krishna even told Balaram, oh, look, brother, look at these trees, how humble they are. They're so full of fruits and flowers. And when you pass by, their fruits, their branches are so overladen with flowers and fruits that they're just bowing down at your feet. Everyone must follow the example of these trees, Balaram, and always give to others. The trees, everything about the tree is for others. Its roots, its fruits, its leaves, its branches, its bark, everything is for others. The way you can do this is being indifferent to worldly desires. And don't ask anything in return, that is, amanina manadena. Don't ask anything in return for your nirmal doya. That means give mercy purely without asking anything in return. And that's how the tree is. Even if two lovers come and carve a heart in the tree, so and so and so and so forever, the tree doesn't protest at all. And moreover, the tree will never ask for water. The tree gives everything and it doesn't ask for anything in return. He said, if you think I am very wealthy, I am very beautiful, my words should be followed. I know better. Then, and that will make you criticize others. It will make you not like a tree. And there's a whole section on criticism, which I'll come to in just a few minutes. The title of the subtitle that we put there in Gurudev's discussions on criticism is Criticize and Lose the Holy Name. In one discussion, he said, if you criticize, then all of your devotional endeavors go into the waste basket. They're all in vain if we criticize others. Even not criticizing ordinary people, honoring ordinary people. Why? Why would somebody want to honor ordinary people? Because he sees Krishna in everyone's heart. So he's honoring Krishna in everyone's heart. So he's respectful to all. He may not honor them that, oh, these people are cheating the public, these leaders are cheating the public. We don't honor them, but we want to see Krishna in all of their hearts. And we don't criticize, oh, did you see the last thing that this senator did, or that president did, or that prime minister did? This is under the category, even though it sounds like news, the news of the day, still is in the category of prajalpa and criticism. And still, we get the qualities. We get the qualities of whoever we're criticizing, even if it's whoever. Prime Minister Modi, he wants to make war. So just for his own country, he's willing to start war with another country. So what happens is the qualities that I'm criticizing, whether the other person has the qualities or not, makes absolutely no difference. Those qualities come into me and live in me and become me. There is an example that he gave about a mother who had a little boy, and the little boy was about 9 years old, and she was a very great, realized, very advanced Brahmani, and she used to earn her living by begging, and she used to spend most of her time worshiping her deities. So one morning she sent her son to pick flowers for the worship, and while he was in the bush picking flowers, he was bitten by a snake. And so a hunter saw that, so he knew the snake charming mantra. So he played on his flute or said his mantra, and the snake went into his basket. He covered the basket, put the boy over his shoulder, put the snake under his arm, went to the mother, who obviously began wailing. But when her weeping subsided, he said, please give me the order to kill this snake. She said, oh, will that bring back my son? He said, no, then don't do it. But then he'll bite somebody else. She said, no, still don't do it. She didn't want to take revenge. So then he didn't care what she said. He was about to chop up the snake anyway. And all of a sudden the snake started speaking. He said, don't blame me. It's not my fault. If you want to blame anybody, blame Kal or time. All of a sudden personified Kal appeared, and he said, look, don't blame me. The time, Kal, the time had come for the boy to taste the reactions of his previous sinful activities. He had killed the snake in his past life when the snake was another boy. And so the boy came back as a snake to kill him back. And that brings us to another topic in this regard that Gurudev said, is that don't blame anyone for my suffering. You hear about it in communication skills programs. Take responsibility for your own experience. And Gurudev teaches the same thing. Maharaj Yudhisthira didn't blame Duryodhana and the Kurus for all the killing and all the suffering of millions of people. Not only the warriors, but all their families. Rather, he blamed himself. And he would call Duryodhana Suryodhana, the good-hearted person, and Karna, Sukarna. So he was a perfect example. That's why he's called Ajatasatru. He never had any enemies, but he had so many enemies. So why is he called the person who never had any enemies? Because he never considered anyone his enemy. Very exemplary. And not blaming anyone else also for harmony. Srila Gurudev said, if anybody cheats me or abuses me, what do I want to think? I want to think, I cheated them first. If I can't remember any time in this life, then I did it in a previous life. Or I would think, oh, Krishna is so kind that Krishna is using this person to show me my impurities. And by this, Krishna is personally purifying me. Or, as Srila Haridas Thakur thought when he was being beaten in 22 marketplaces, he thought, oh, Krishna is doing this to purify me. Or Krishna is doing this to glorify me, to show my tolerance. Or Krishna is doing this to teach me tolerance. So in any way, the devotee sees the Lord on the background, and he never blames anybody. If he wants to blame anybody, Srila Gurudev said, if you want to find fault with anybody, then find fault with yourself. Even once Padmanabhadas, everybody knows him as, forget his name, Pankaj. He said to Gurudev, you know, it's very difficult to not criticize in the mind. I can understand it's bad to criticize by words, but it's very difficult, if not impossible, to criticize by mind. So Gurudev said, because Gurudev reads everyone's mind, he said, I know you do this. I already knew you do this. Don't do this. This is a very bad thing. Once in Hawaii, some husband and wife came to see him, and he said to the husband, stop beating your wife. And he said, I'm not beating her. He said, yes, you are. He said, well, I used to, but I don't anymore. And Gurudev said, yes, you do. I see you. So we can hide from ourselves, but we can't hide from Sri Guru. And in fact, speaking about husbands and wives, we have a tendency to think that all these rules of honoring others and don't expect any in return and be as humble as a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree applies to everyone but my parents, my spouse, and my kids. But It applies to everyone. No matter what relationship they appear to have with you, everyone is an eternal soul. Then a great example that Gurudev gave about that, being more tolerant than a tree, is that this king was sitting under a tree after he had gone out for conquest, and his ministers were around him, and it was a mango tree, and some boys were throwing rocks at the mango tree to get the mangoes to fall down so they could eat the mangoes. So by accident, one rock hit the eye of the king, and he started gushing blood from his eye. Obviously, he became blind in that one eye. So the minister said, "Oh, king, please let us kill this boy, or at least torture him." So the king said, "Why? Am I less than this tree? They're throwing rocks at the tree, and the tree is returning with sweet mangoes. So am I less than the tree? No, I am a king. So rather, give this boy a portion of my kingdom." Now that's pretty amazing. Then what about going into a conversation with someone? It may be a tense conversation, or it may be just a conversation that if I didn't do it right, it would become a tense conversation. So Gurudev said, in going to a conversation, don't think I am right to the highest extent. I'm not going to obey you. You have to obey me. Rather, first hear, hold back your mood and hear from the other person, what is their happiness and distress in regard to the particular topic, and then together decide what to do. And how do we want to preach, he said? Preach not by your intelligence. How am I going to control this person and manipulate this person? But he said, preach with love and affection. And that will control everybody. Love and affection controls. And if you try to preach by controlling, by your intelligence, then you will lose everything and nobody will follow. Then another topic in that regard, giving all respects to others, not desiring any in return, and being tolerant, the four magic mantra lines. Trinadapi sunichena turodapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadaharihi. Who's a perfect example? Nityananda Prabhu with Jagai and Madai. Not only did he tolerate, but then he told Mahaprabhu, no, in this age, you've come not to destroy the demons, but to purify them. Then, of course, another great example is the sage and the scorpion. That is, there were two sages standing by the bank of the river, and they saw that the current of the river was drawing a scorpion to its death in the strong current. So he picked up the scorpion, and the scorpion was in his hand. So being a scorpion, what did he do? He bit the hand and fell down into the water again. Again, the sage did that. And again, the sage did that 3 times. Finally, his friend said, why don't you just let him die? Look what he's doing to you. So then the sage who picked up the scorpion, he said, he is my guru. If he cannot give up his nature as a scorpion to bite me, he's teaching me, why should I give up my nature as a sage to be his well-wisher? And yeah, even grass, Gurudev said, seeing Krishna in the heart of the grass, even grass, show honor to the grass. Chant to the grass, avoid stepping on the grass if possible. And there's so many insects, if we chant, then even if we accidentally kill the insects, then they will get a better destination. So my time is almost over. A few more stories that he told. He said, we are not masters to chastise. We're not the authority. Guru is the authority. Nityananda is the authority. Baladev is the authority. We're not the authority or the masters to chastise. Rather than trying to be the controller and chastising, I would want to be under the control of Guru and Krishna and Baladev and so on. He told the story, and this will be the last story, although I had about 1 hour left to go, but I'm going to end here respecting the time. he told a story about the two brothers. One brother, they both went to Gurukula. They both moved back into the village. One brother lived under a tree. Another brother moved into the temple. And the one who lived under the tree, it happened to be nearby a brothel, a prostitute's house. And so the brother who lived in the temple saw so many of the clients of the prostitute going back and forth to and from her brothel. So he was, quote unquote, naturally thinking that, wow, my brother is probably under her control. So he was always criticizing his brother. And his brother, who was living under the tree, was always thinking, oh, my brother is so fortunate. He's living in a temple. He has sadhu sangha. He's always chanting, and I'm so unfortunate. So then gradually the two of them got older and older. And then death came to both of them. And the older brother saw the constables of death, and he said, oh, you've come to take me to Swarga? And the constables of death told him, no, we've come to take you to the lowest wretched place, to the lowest hell. And then I said, why? If you want to send anyone to hell, you can go to my brother. You've got the wrong address. They said, no, we have the right address, because by criticizing your brother, all the qualities that you were criticizing, even though he didn't have the qualities, they all came and they're all living in you. So we're taking you to hell. And so then the younger brother, the other brother who was living under the tree, he went to Vaikuntha. So I asked Gurudev that, okay, I get it, that the one brother criticizing the other brother, he went to hell, got it. But why would the other brother, who was thinking of the brother who went to hell, why would he have gone to Vaikuntha? So Gurudev said, because he only initially thought of his brother. When he thought of the fortune of his brother, then he too went and took sadhu sangha and became perfect in that way. So criticize and lose the holy name. So I'm going to end here because my time is just about up. And thank you very much. And Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Panchakobatarubhyastra Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Syamarani, thank you. Although you went to the 108 miles an hour, which I have to, or for our European friends, 141 kilometers an hour, you were very playful throughout. And I thought the one word you didn't use, but was implied throughout the book, and also demonstrated throughout Gurudev's life, is that harmony always includes humor. Humor seems to be a great balancing way of balancing out different energies and forces and characters and natures. So I found, although everything you said was very serious, I love the playful and humorous mood that was imbued throughout the presentation. And for me, watching other people who bring harmony into their lives and into the lives around them, it's like harmony around the person is almost like the dashboard of our internal work. It's like if we're doing seva, if we're doing sadhana, if we're listening to Harikatha and we're really drinking it through our ears, then we will naturally, the dashboard, when you get in the car and it says, what speed you're doing and where's the oil and where's the petrol and everything, how harmonious your reactions are to the world, both in your mind and actions, is a demonstration of whether you're actually applying it or not, which is why operating in the world is very important, because that's going to feed back to you what's really going on. Are you harmonious or not? And I just thought it's not etymologically correct, but it's almost like the ha bit of harmony is the heart, and the mono bit means one. So it's all about creating one heart, but out of a diversity of hearts. And it made me think, although I've never heard anyone link it, there's some kind of link there between Achincha Beta Beta Tattva philosophy, the stories you told of the sage and the scorpion, the brothers, and there's another one of the prostitute and the Brahmin as well, where this, and you start off with the description from the book, from the preface of the book, this diversity and unity and diversity is everything. And you also touched upon it by saying, you intimated it, and because you had a lot to cover, you didn't go deeply into it, but we can't create harmony through our brains. Our brains are programmed like ones and zeros. Our brains have to decide yes or no. But our hearts are very deep, and they can reconcile, the heart can reconcile seemingly contradictory and paradoxical and ambiguous things that look like they're on the opposite spectrum, but actually can harmonize if they don't impose their mood on the other. And this is really, really beautiful. And that linked into what you said about let people express what they feel and what they think, even if it is difficult on your ears. Sometimes they're saying things behind the words. They just want to be understood. Most of the time, we just want to be understood. We don't even need to comment on technically what someone said. If the other person feels like you got their heart and you've understood, and sometimes it can be like your mind can be. Sometimes I'm in conversations and I'm like, my brain's rebelling. Like, I don't want to listen to any of this anymore. And the more painful it is, the more I realize I have to reach out to Gurudev to say, no, stay. It's not about you feeling the pleasure of the conversation. You'll feel the pleasure of the conversation at the end if you put the other person's needs first. But it takes that patience. But it's beautiful when you get there, because then the other person feels understood and you feel fulfilled because you performed your seva, and Gurudev's happy.
And we don't want to take the time sometimes, but it's really saved so much time.
Yeah, taking a bit of more time saves so much more time later. Yeah,
years.
Yeah. It's that whole thing about you can, if you use the sword all the time and you don't sharpen it, it becomes a blunt sword. And hearing people is sharpening the sword, because trust is such a currency of harmony, and you only build trust if the other person feels you understand them. There's one last thing. I haven't actually heard Gurudev actually say this, but it came in my heart and I have used it over the years. Is this instruction about not criticizing people? There are some people that you have a propensity to criticize in your mind. And I found that the antidote to that Gurudev has taught me to do, and not in an overly sort of flowery way, but in a constructive way, is to find things about that person to glorify them. Because there's always in devotees things to glorify. And if you can glorify that person, it's like the cup either has air or water in it. So if you pour the water in the cup, there can be no air because you've poured the water of glory in the cup. So the criticism kind of goes. So it makes it, if I meditate on not criticizing someone, I keep on thinking about what I want to criticize them for. But if I glorify them for whatever they've done, I actually see a different part of their personality, and all that criticism, that goes away. It's irrelevant, So that was a beautiful, beautiful summary of the Harmony book.